Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be making a video about the application process for law school. I know I said I was going to make a second part to the LSAT, but I kind of forgot what my main topics for that was going to be, so I'm just going to skip that part, and if there's any questions that y'all want me to answer, then I'll make that second part, but for now I'm just going to make the application process video, kind of just what the steps are and how I went about it. So first I'm going to start by saying that you will have to create an LTAC account, which is the Law School Admissions Council account that will be online. When you first do it, you don't have to put that much important information, just your biography, like your name, address, phone number, social security, stuff like that, super simple. You don't have to input like schools or anything like that, not just yet. So you're going to create your LTAC account. Just so you know, you do have to pay a couple of fees other than your LSAT fee. You're going to have to pay a CAS fee, which is a fee for the system or the software, I'm not really sure, or the program that the LSAC people use to store all your transcripts, your letters of recommendation, your personal statements. It's kind of a database, so they just hold all your things together and then they just send out packages to all the schools that you apply to. So you will have to pay the LSAT test fee. You'll have to pay the CAS fee, which I believe is $185 as well. You'll have to pay your application fees for every school that you apply to. And then on top of that, you're going to have to pay to get a report sent to each school. So for example, if I'm applying to one school and that school asks me to pay $60 for the application fee, I'll be paying the $60 plus I think it's like $60 more per report that they send, and then plus the CAS fee. The CAS fee is only once. The report fee and the application fee of course are per application, but the CAS fee will only be once, just like the LSAT test, or if you take more than once you have to pay more. But yeah, the CAS fee is just a one-time $185 fee, so just so you know that. You don't have to pay when you create your account. You will have to pay once you start rolling in your letters of recommendation, your transcripts, all of that. You will have to pay it by the time you have all that. So just so you know, you will want to begin your LTAC account, putting your information in pretty early, just so you can have the very basic standard of it done. You can do that as early as you want. Like, you can create an LTAC account right now, even if you don't plan on going to school for another year and a half. Just don't forget your password and all that. So you're going to begin your account, pay your CAS fee, and then the very first thing I would suggest to do is to start your personal statement. That's probably one of the most important documents that you'll have on there. Start working on it early because you want to have people to look at it, go over it, kind of so you give yourself time to edit maybe multiple times. I know I had my pre-law advisor at my university look over it twice. If you want to, you can ask maybe your favorite professor to look over it, or if you have someone who's really good with writing, really close to you, you can ask them. Again, this is a personal statement for law school, so each school is going to ask you kind of the same topic, but sometimes they'll specify if they want to know a little bit more about something than other schools. Like, the generic personal statement is probably the most popular, but some of them will ask you for something along the lines of, tell me a specific situation, or tell me somewhere where you learned something that led to this, something like that. So you want to be careful that when you're going through your school's applications, you're reading carefully what they're asking from you. So just make sure that, especially when you're going over the part where they're asking for the personal statement, you double check what they're asking you to write. So you don't have to write a personal statement for each school. You just want to make sure you change a few things here and there just so it fits each school better. So you want to start working on that really early. That's probably the first thing you'll want to work on. Like I said, you want to get it looked at multiple times, and you want to make sure that you have the best version of it when you're turning it in. The next thing you'll want to do is start asking for your letters of recommendation. Most schools ask for at least 2, or at least the ones I looked at, most of them wanted 2. The max you can do, I believe, is 3 or 4. It just depends on the school. I did 3. I did 2 from professors and 1 from an employer, who also happened to be my mentor at some point, so that worked perfectly for me. But you do want to ask for as many, or at least 2 or 3. You want to ask for them early. So something that happened to me was that I kind of started asking for them a little bit too late. And of course, these are people who have jobs, they have lives, and on top of their jobs, they have especially professors, they have things to do like grading and like they have to prepare for finals, midterms, and all that. So you want to make sure you give it to them early. That way it gives you time and you're not stressing because they haven't turned one in and you're just waiting on that letter to submit. That's what happened to me. I asked one professor, I believe early October. Unfortunately, she didn't have it ready for me until early January, which is around the time I submitted my applications, which I would have liked to submit them early December, but that wasn't the only factor that pushed back my application time frame. So just so you know, other things did come up, but just so you know, you do want to make sure you give them time because, like I said, some of them will take a couple of months to write one. So just give them time to write one. You don't want to be rushing them. You do want to be checking up with them, make sure that they haven't forgotten, make sure that they have everything they need. And going off of that, I do want to say that you want to give them a resume along with the personal statement. So what I did, I sat down with my professors, I went to their office hours. First of all, I asked them if they would be willing to. Once they said yes, kind of explained how the process would be. Luckily, one of them, she was an attorney as well, so she had already gone through the law school process, so she kind of was familiar with it already. The other one, I think he's wrote letters for other students who are going to law school before, so he was kind of familiar with it as well. But you do want to sit down and kind of explain to them how it is, because it's not like they're just going to physically write one or type one up and give it to you or mail it in. They have to do it through the LTAC website. So they have to do an LTAC account as well as a person who's recommending someone, and then from there they upload their letter onto there, but their letter has to match up with your ID and stuff like that, and you have to print out a form that you also have to give them that also has to be turned in with their letter. So it's a process. It's not just super simple like give me a letter and let me take it to them. No, they have to do it through the LSAC website as well. So you want to make sure that they understand this. You want to sit down and talk to them about it. While you're talking to them about that, you also want to tell them a little bit about yourself, something that they can write in there. You want to tell them what you've done, like your activities, your honors, any achievements. You do want to give them a resume as well, because if they forget that you've already talked about this, if they forget, they have that resume to go back to as they're writing their letter. Of course, if you've only had a professor for a semester, they've only known you for such little time, they need a little bit more background. One of the professors I asked, I had him for 2 semesters, so he knew me pretty well. I talked to him about my resume and why it looked the way it did, so he got to know me a little bit more past the resume. My other professor, I only had her for 1 semester, and she still decided to write me a letter. I did go to her office hours multiple times, so she got to know me a little bit more because I was constantly meeting up with her and telling her about myself. So you want to make sure that these are people who know you, people who can actually vouch for you, because you don't want to ask someone who you've known for just a month or a couple months, but you're not trying to build a relationship with them, or they don't see that you're trying in their class. You want to make sure it's someone that's actually going to speak good of you. So just keep that in mind when you're asking for letters. You can ask for them as early as the semester before, I think, if anything, because I think they're good up to a year or 2. So just ask for them with time and give them something to write their letter off of. You do have the option to write addenda, so these are extra papers, I guess, or extra letters. If you have a bad GPA, if you did bad on your LSAT, if you did both, or if you have a really good GPA and a really bad LSAT, or if on your transcript at some point you were Dean's List and then you fell off for like 2 semesters or a semester because something happened, you have the option to write an addenda. So an addenda is pretty much just explaining why your LSAT score was low, why your GPA is low, or what happened, what caused this to be the way it is. So it's not necessarily making an excuse for you. It's just like in situations where people do really well in school and then something big happens in their lives for a semester and that changes their GPA, you can definitely write an addenda. It's for them to know like what happened, what caused this to look the way it does. Why did you fall off all of a sudden? Or in the LSAT case, maybe you're a really good scholar, but just when it comes to test taking, you're not very comfortable. You're just one of those people who cannot take tests. So that's perfectly fine. That does not define you as a bad student. So you can just write an addenda saying how you're very good with school, your grades are definitely reflecting that, but maybe your LSAT score didn't reflect that. So you want to write an addenda saying, this is why my LSAT looks the way it is. like I said, you're not doing an excuse. You don't want to give, like, throw a pity party for yourself. You kind of just want to tell them what happened, pretty much. Also, I know there's a lot of people who work during their undergrad. That kind of takes a toll on their grades. So if you're one of those people who maybe your grades aren't the very best, but you know you have the ability to do very well, but you just couldn't because of work or personal problems, like there might be people who were doing their undergrad while being parents and maybe working 2 jobs. So obviously that took effect on your grades, but that does not define you as a bad student or someone who is not prepared for law school. So you want to write these things in addendas. Apply to multiple schools. You don't want to just go with your first option or even your second option. You want to apply to multiple schools. And I'm probably not the best person to be saying that because I only applied to 3 schools, which was not the best idea. But again, it gets crazy. It's expensive to apply to school, so I will go into more detail maybe in a future video. But yeah, I did apply to 3 schools, but I would recommend to apply to at least 5, because of course you want to have backup options. You want to have a plan B. You want to compare schools on how many people pass the bar, on how much they offer you, on how their grades are, kind of just their class profile pretty much. So by having at least 5, I feel like that's a good amount to compare. Of course, what if you don't get into 2 of them? Then that leaves you with 3 options to compare. If you get into all 5, great, you have 5 options to compare. Another thing going off of that, you want to go to law school fairs. At my university, we had a law school fair where about 30 to 40 law schools went, and that was all over the United States law schools, not just Texas. So you want to make sure you go to law schools. I got to see so many law schools that I didn't know of, or I kind of had heard of but didn't know much about their programs or their cost of tuition and stuff like that. Some of these schools work really well with students with giving you scholarships on your first year. If you've done very good your first year, sometimes they give you a full ride for the second year or stuff like that. So you want to make sure you go to law school fairs. You'll get to see so many schools and again kind of compare them there, see what fits you. Definitely look into out-of-state schools. I know it's so expensive, but just like don't cross it out as an option. Just see what they have to offer, because during these law school fairs a lot of out-of-state schools come. They're trying to recruit people from all over, so you definitely want to make yourself available to them as well, not just in-state. And I guess my last tip is have a backup plan. Just like I said, apply to plenty of schools. So I guess to wrap this whole thing up, just make sure you create your LTAC account, start your personal statements, start your letters of recommendation, or start asking for them pretty early. And then once you have that, then you can start working on your actual applications, which is just asking you basic information such as your name, address, phone numbers, parents' information, all of that. You want to make sure you get that done. Then it'll move over to the questions of the personal statement and where you're going to upload all that. So just take your time. You want to create an LTAC account and start looking at applications early on, see what they're asking, so you can get them all done early. That's pretty much it for this video. It's just a super basic rundown. I know it gets pretty expensive and it's super nerve-wracking to apply to law school. It's a tedious process as well, so just take your time with it, have fun with it. Don't be scared to apply to schools that are a little bit out of your comfort zone, because the worst thing that can happen is them saying no. You know, if you're kind of on edge about applying somewhere, I would say just do it. If you can afford it, just do it, because what if it turns out that they do accept you? Oh, and one last thing, if they offer to, or if they ask you if you want to do an interview, please make sure you do it. Some of them are not mandatory, but just do it. It'll look so much better. You'll feel more comfortable. And they just ask pretty basic questions, so just do it. It might help you out in the long run. Of course, it looks better, so I would say definitely do an interview. And most of the time, they'll be over the phone, so it won't be too bad. But yeah, that's pretty much all of it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to keep seeing videos like this, please just make sure to subscribe. I'll be making some more videos soon as it's getting closer to me moving to my new city. So just keep watching and I'll bring you along with all these crazy new things that are about to happen. But thanks for watching.